believe that we've been this consistent
for 7 seasons. I cannot fathom the fact that we decided we were going to do something. We have stayed the course, because everybody can start. Anybody can start. Literally, that is one of the hardest things to get over. Like, once you start, then I think it was Steve Harvey who said it's consistently keeping it there. Once you start it, that is the game changer.
And that goes with like everything.
Relationships,
plants, diets, physique. It's like, it's the maintenance that's the key. Like, people are always like, oh, everyone has a podcast. But how many episodes do they have? How long have they been podcasting?
Yeah.
Like, it's the longevity for me.
It is. And so 7, because we are officially in season 7 now. Yes. 7 is the number of completion, and in order to go to the next level, you do have to complete the round that you're on.
Yeah.
Like, you have to complete it. And so to now go through this next, evolution where we are changing and shifting and doing all the things, y'all, we had our first event. If you missed the Evolve experience.
Yeah, it was so good.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We will continue to bring these type of incredibly impactful and transformative experiences IRL, in real life, because they are life altering.
Yeah, I keep telling everyone that the Evolve experience was the event I've always wanted to go to.
Yes.
We've been to events, and the women's empowerment events and the sister events, and they're great, and I'm so happy that they exist in so many ways, but I've never seen it done quite like this.
Yeah.
And everyone who attended was just like, wow, this was so different. This was we're having such uncomfortable, real, transformative conversations. And that was the goal, and for us to like knock it out of the park, our first event. Like, I anticipated, I was like, it's our first time. Don't have too many high expectations. Just be happy we even got to this point where it's happening and people are in the seats.
Yes.
But then it just became so much more, where it was like, oh no, this is happening. Like, the transformation part, the healing part, like, you can tell, like, there were people crying.
Yes.
People are still messaging us like, oh my gosh, like, that was a real deal. And that's so what we set out to do, and to be able to actually accomplish that piece of it.
Yes.
I feel like that is just remarkable. So
Absolutely.
I hope that you guys really keep tuning in and keep supporting us, because we're so grateful for every one of our trigger happy family members who keep rooting for us, because the train is leaving the station, guys.
Listen.
So you need to hop on
okay
now. Because the train is leaving the station. That's all I'm trying to say.
It is
in a good way. It's going places.
Yes. and this conversation today is another one that I have not heard as many people talk about. Yes, we acknowledge there are so many things that we deal with and have to manage in our adulthood that stem from our childhood, the triggers, the traumas, and all the things. And also, because butt cancels everything before it, and also, what we're going to talk about in today's episode is the things our mothers did right. And this is not harping on moms or saying, oh, well, what about dads? Relax, that one will come too. For this conversation, we do want to make sure that we focus in on, because we have talked a lot about the things that our mothers did wrong. And again, they're saying a blame game thing, but it is hey, this is what, she did that wasn't as helpful.
This is our truth, okay?
Exactly. Now we're going to talk about the flip side, because you're never going to only get from us the negatives. That's not who we are. That's not the lane or plane that we operate on.
Well, this show is about healing the triggers, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, throughout this process, we've both grown and healed so much, just from even the conversations on this show, and interacting with wonderful human beings who share their insight and perspective, interacting with people who listen to the podcast that are like, wow, this really moved me, or wow, I thought this about what you said, and even just learning from each other. So it's been, what is this, our 3rd year or something like that?
3 years.
Yeah, so it's like there's been so much transformation just within us as well, that I feel like we couldn't have had this conversation 2-3 years ago.
We weren't ready.
Because we didn't have the perspective that we have now on these things. So I hope that this conversation is a reflection of that, a reflection of our own growth, to kind of like show that we walk the talk, and we are really doing the work on this show and behind the scenes to heal our own triggers so that we can continue to guide and help and assist and be of service to those who also want to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And it is not you have to be perfect, because you are walking through your own transformative journey. That's not it. And also, I know for me, it has always been a thing. I don't want it to be that my public persona is one where I've got it all together. I'm zen, I'm this, I'm that. And then behind the scenes, I'm cussing everybody and their mama out. Like, that's, for me, not okay. And again, and I'm not, no disrespect to the gentle parents, I'm not a gentle parent. I still don't want to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, cursing out those who are closest to me or my child because I'm healed on camera, but I'm a shit show behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's not what this is about. We're all about authenticity and being genuine, and that we always have very real conversations with each other about making sure that we're staying aligned with our values and how we think things should be. And even with the events that we plan to continue putting on, it's like our number one conversation is, how do we keep the essence? Yes. How do we keep it pure? How do we maintain integrity? How do we make sure that our mission never wavers, no matter how many millions, no matter how much fame, no matter how many stages, no matter how big the stage, that we're always kind of keeping our core values at heart. So this conversation is really important, especially to me, because I've had such a, I've had such a challenging relationship with my mother, and becoming a mother, and I'm about to become a mother again, times two. It has really shifted the way I look at her. It shifted the way I look at myself. I wanted it to, and I was very intentional throughout my pregnancies to make sure that I was tapping into a space that would bring understanding, because if you don't get anything else in this life, you need to get understanding.
Get an understanding.
Like, always seek understanding. And that for me is so paramount. And it's like a very big pillar in my life is understanding. And because I've been so baffled by some of the things that my mother has done, I went on this journey with this pregnancy in particular to talk about the things she did right. And to think about them more, and to acknowledge them more, and to honor them, as opposed to always trying to find and focus on and nitpick on all the things that she could have done better.
Yeah. And I think too that's for me, like, where I want to start, right? So what would you say has been, of the things that she did right, that has had the most impact on you and who you are, or who you have become at this stage?
There really are so many. So much of my outgoing personality is my mom. My ability to make friends and keep friends and have friends and things like that is all my mother. She's the person who told me, if you want friends, you first have to be a friend. I think she did an excellent job of allowing me to express myself, coming from a culture that taught her that children should be seen and not heard. She allowed me to be like, I remember my mom let me dye my hair red in the 8th grade.
Oh, wow. That's unheard of.
Like, my sister was in like beauty school or something, and my sister's 7 years older than me. And I remember I was in middle school, and like, I don't remember the details, but I just remember one day going to school with my hair red and like short. And everybody was like, what? Like, like the white girls, the Spanish girls at school could do those things, but black girls were not dyeing their hair in the 8th grade. I just have a lot of fond memories of her. I actually have a very I have a lot of beautiful memories of my mother as a child. She was extremely affectionate towards me. And so much of that is how I am towards my children, towards my daughter now, where like I grew up with a lot of hugs and kisses and I love yous from my mom. And it feels so normal and natural for me to be that way with my daughter, where it doesn't feel like I'm really trying to like be that way. It's just like, I don't really know how else to be with my daughter, because that's how my mom was with me. So I'm really grateful for that level of love. I think that thanks to her, I've never felt unloved. And that's really powerful. That really is important. I can't remember a space that in my life where I felt like, oh, nobody loves me. And I know that that's a space many people end up in. But I just never felt like that with my mom. Like, she just was really good at, she didn't always have the words. And she didn't always make the best decisions, and we'll talk about those things. But the things that she did right was just like, you know, she worked really, really hard. Like my work ethic and like that perseverance and that drive and ambition, my mother, like my mom worked 2 jobs to take care of us as a single mother.
Yeah.
I remember my mom would go to work at 11 p.m., work the overnight shift. She was like a front desk manager at a hotel. Wake up, come home by 7 a.m. to take me to school. Sleep maybe for a few hours, go back to like a second job from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. like a part-time job.
Yeah.
Come home, change, and go back to the 11 o'clock job. So that was like for years, that was like, because she like coming here from Jamaica as immigrants, she said like she never wanted us to live in the hood. She wanted us to go to decent schools. Like we didn't have a lavish life, but it was just very important to her to provide and make sure that we lived in safe spaces with her girls.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of those things when I think about in this process with this pregnancy, for some reason it's been coming up a lot.
Yeah.
I just think about all the good things that she has done. You know, she taught me a lot about forgiveness. You know, like she's very sometimes I feel like to a fault sometimes that she's like a little too forgiving. But my mom's house was the house that when other Jamaicans were coming to America, they would stay, but she would take in other people. Like I remember my dad and my mom were already divorced, and my dad's sisters came to stay with my mother when they came to America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for like months. I'm not talking about like weekend. I'm talking about like when they came for the summers, when they finally decided to move here, they were here for months, and my mother took them in. My mother helped them get jobs. Like,
wow.
Their other family was here, but my mom took them in, and that heart for people, that desire to just help people, again, sometimes to a fault, definitely trickled to me where like it's just a part of my DNA. Like the cooking is my mom all day. Like my love of cooking and food and events and throwing parties and having people, all my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go on, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Until recently.
But that is what we need, like perspective. If you can reframe things to not only look at the damage that it caused and the trauma, you know, that you have experienced by it, and also take a look at, well, what have I gained? How have I grown? What has this experience shaped and cultivated in me that I can now take whatever it shaped and cultivated in me and do more or become more of who I desire to be? That is a game-changing type of experience and type of energy and type of mentality and mindset that helps you to push the needle forward. Yeah, like it can't all be bad. Like even in the worst situations, like there's a nugget. There's a nugget. There's
like
something. Even
there's a little piece of gold. You might have to rinse
gold.
it off and get it polished and go through the process of making it look like gold. But there's something in there that you can find. And I know some of us have awful, tumultuous childhoods. So I never want to take away from that or diminish that or make that seem like it's not important. But it's just like, even in that, I hear really wonderful stories that people will find that little sliver of happiness or sliver of a good time that kept them going, you know? So
absolutely.
What do you feel like it is for you? Like, what are some things that you feel like your mom did really well that reflects in how amazing you are today?
So my mother too was the woman who we always call them strays. Sorry guys, we were kids, but we would call them strays because before she lost her mind the first time, she would like foster kids. And so I had like all these foster siblings where they would, you know, come to our house, and she'd, you know, take them to the Goodwill, and she'd get them new clothes, well, new to them. New clothes, and she would make a space for them in her home. It's why I'm so welcoming to people into my home if I say I care about you. She taught me how to cook very, very, very early, because she would cook for everybody, and she'd make sure, like, you know, even though we didn't always have a lot of food, like before I turned 8, which is when she had lost her mind, she would make sure like we would stretch $1. And she would always tell my siblings, you know, if you guys have $1 and there are 3 of you, that means you each have a little over, you know, 25 cents. Like, everybody got at least 33 cents to do something with. And if you keep the dollar together and choose together what you want it to be, then you guys can get even more to make sure you are always taken care of.
Yeah.
Like, she helped to ensure, like, my sister now is one of my best friends because of how she taught us to entreat our siblings. Like, the love that we have.
Important.
The way we show up for each other. For my mom, even after, like, her, because she, like I said, she lost her mind, but then she came back, she always made sure that I understood and my siblings understood not having it was never an excuse. You not having it is not an excuse to not go and get it. It is not an excuse to not figure it out. As long as you are alive and your mind still works, you can figure out how to create whatever it is that you want. You can collaborate.
That one's stuck. That one is real in there.
It's in there. It is in there. If I want it, I'm going to get it, and it is literally only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Like, no, the outside, what's going wrong, what I do not have, all the reasons why I cannot do something are irrelevant to me. I do not understand. No. No means next opportunity. I'm going to figure this out. Either I'm going to figure it out or I figured it out. One of the two, but it's going to get done. And it may not look exactly how I wanted it to be in my head. But for me, slow progress is still progress. And I'm willing to loudly make a mistake if it means I've grown.
Yeah.
And that is all my mother. Like, all her. That fire, her ability, like I said, with her, so the reason she actually lost her child when I was 8 is because she was working 3 jobs. She had 3 kids. She was working 3 jobs. I don't even understand how she was doing it. And even now at like 66, I believe, she has 2 jobs still. As a nurse, she works 35 hours over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's wild. And then during the week, she works 40 hours during the week, Monday through Friday, at one of her nursing jobs, and then 40 hours a week on the weekends at her other nursing job. Why she still does this at 66 is beyond me. But she says she has some very real goals, and my mother will set a goal. She says she wants to have her house paid off in 5 years. She will literally set a goal, create a plan, and execute her plan of attack. That is me through and through. And I love that about me. There are also, a few challenges with that type of hard, fast, and no, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to get type mentality. And that can be off-putting, especially when, like, in relationships, because I get tunnel vision and no. And Danny knows I'm very anal. What I see is what it needs to be. That can be challenging. But, I'm working on it. You can't be perfect. So I think, and then the last thing I learned from her that I really am appreciative of is she taught me that it's okay to say, I know. We interrupted at the best part, but hear me out.
Dating should not be this hard. Let's be honest. We've all said it at least once that the dating pool has pee in it.
It has to. After dozens of dates, too many failed relationships, engagements, marriages, and even a divorce, we decided it was crucial that we find ways to be better at attracting the partners that we desire. So we did just that, and we created the Dating Well AF course.
It's specifically designed to show women how to date with intention and in alignment with their desired type of lifestyle and experience. The 5-module crash course developed by certified coaches Alicia and Danny provides practical tools to date well and live even better.
So I want you to register now for lifetime access to the Dating Well AF course at datingwellaf.com. You will tap all the way in to learn how to identify those self-sabotaging behaviors, discover new ways to date intentionally, and to nurture that healthy love.
Remember, one of the most important life decisions you will ever make is who you decide to make your partner. Make the choice well and visit datingwellaf.com.
Now, back to the episode. Okay to acknowledge that you were wrong.
Important. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
She apologized to me because I told her, once I turned 18 and a little bit after 18, I think I was like 26 or 27, when we finally had the conversation like about my childhood, like for real. Like, not like, oh, we're trying to be gentle. No, like, yo, you allowed people to straight up abuse me and beat me, and that is not okay. Like, you broke me in ways you were supposed to protect me. You did not. I got a problem.
Yeah.
And she just apologized. There was no fight. There was no, well, there was none of that. It was a straight up, I'm so sorry. I was doing what I thought at the time was right, and I didn't know that this is the effect that it had on you. And for her to be willing to just apologize without trying to, well, you just got to understand it. This is what it was.
And coming with the excuses and the justification,
There was no excuse. It was just I didn't know. She's like, my mother didn't do those things with me, so I didn't know I was supposed to do it for you.
It's interesting that both of our root issues with our mother are around lack of feeling protected. You know, like when I kind of started figuring that out, because like I got into a space with her that was just really, really negative in like my early 20s, because there was this time where I just didn't feel protected by her. Because like I said, I don't have many, I mean, my mom, like, she yelled a lot and stuff like that, but like my overall childhood was really great. So it's like I had this really great childhood. I have very great memories with her that overpower any negative memories. And then there was like this instance of not feeling protected in a major way. And it was like, it's like it erased everything good in my mind. Like I could not get over that for years. And it turned me into a very, very mean daughter, I'm sure, in my early 20s. But when you said that, like, you didn't feel protected, it was like, that's exactly the root issue of what I had with my mother, is I didn't feel protected in a really important time in my life where I really needed protection from her. And that's maybe the only time in life where I didn't question her love, but I questioned her loyalty to me. And I questioned, like, why she wouldn't protect me in that space. And then I had to learn to do the work, which we'll talk more about, but I've had to learn to do the work to understand maybe why she didn't. And then that is like, you know, a whole nother journey that we'll dive into here. But it's so interesting that's like, once you kind of can figure out the root of why you feel that way towards them and what it is exactly that's bothering you, if you can go back to that space in your childhood, if you can go back to that memory, observing it as an adult can shift your perspective, because now you can look at it and be like, oh, that's what would happen. That's why you did that. Or even your mom just apologizing, just like that, just that acknowledgement sometimes, which I know most of us do not get from our parents, because you bring them something and they go into victim mode and that was your fault or that person's fault, or they're so unaware they don't remember. Sometimes I tell one of like somebody something, an adult from my past, and they have no recollection.
My father doesn't remember anything. It's totally fine.
My dad has a lot of amnesia too. And selective amnesia. And I'm just like, you know, and that can make you feel more angry and more resentful, because you feel like they're not even willing to hear you now, and you're hoping that, hey, it's been 20 years, maybe you've grown too. And then you're disappointed that they have not, maybe, you know, or not to the level that they're ready to have those conversations to apologize. So I think it's beautiful that she apologized to you, because I'm sure that validated your feelings enough so you could process them to move forward.
And she's apologized multiple times, because we've had multiple conversations.
Oh yeah, it's never just one.
No.
Yeah.
We've had multiple conversations, but it helps me to apologize to my daughter when I'm wrong, and she's 13, and I'm pretty sure like, oh, well, she's a child, you should be fine. No, I've done some things that are fucked up to her, or that I shouldn't have done. Like I've said things that she's just like, she'll look at me and she'll be like, why would you say that to me? No, and I respect that. Like people, like there was one woman, she's like, you let your daughter talk to you like that? And I was like, but I shouldn't have said that way. That was unnecessary. I didn't have to say it like that. Yes, I needed to say it, but I didn't have to say it like that. And it is okay for her to call me out on it. There was one time my mother, she hit me hard as hell in my face. And that was the only time I looked at her like I was going to kill her. I'm not saying disrespect y'all parents. I am saying she hit me so hard in the face, and I said, don't you ever hit me in my face again.
How old were you, do you think?
I was 15. That's fine. I get it, because I'm from a different generation. So we would get our back broke, knocked and caved in.
Stuff and pinch us and
I mean, beat the hell down. It was a very different time at that time. And I understood, like, okay, I get whoopings, I get in trouble. That's fine, but what you won't do is be hitting me in my face.
Yeah, that's not okay.
And so it didn't bother me. My daughter was like, why would you say that to me like that? You right, sis. My bad. There's a better way to do it, and I don't want you to feel comfortable with anybody talking to you the way I just spoke to you.
That's so interesting. That's also very interesting. I have a memory like that with my mother being the child. We were like, I was telling my husband about this the other day because I was just, and again, it was just, I've been so intentional of thinking of things that she did right, and just like, just being conscious of them and like purposely like seeking my memory bank to find these little moments with her where she did things right, where sometimes like when I thought about this memory, I was like shocked that she even responded the way she did, because she has no training to respond that way. That is not, my mom was born in the 60s in Jamaica, to like in the countryside somewhere. Like the way that she typically deals with, that she's supposed to deal with children versus the way she dealt with me is, I'm not sure. I don't know what, like God intervened or something. I don't know what it is that she just was different with me. Yeah. But I'm so grateful for that now. But I have a memory when I was a little girl where, I can't remember if we're at her friend's house or her friend was at our house, but something happened and she called me stupid. And I was like 8 years old. Like I was very young, because I remember the where we were living at the time. I remember that space. And I remember she called me stupid in front of her friend. Right? And like that is very normal in Jamaican culture, to call your kids names, to belittle them, to berate them. Like that's not unusual. That's not something that had never happened in the history of Jamaican culture. Like that's how they talk to their children traditionally, right? Probably even to this day, I'm sure. But it's just like a part of the culture to be rough and to talk rough and to say things like that and not think anything of it. So she called me stupid like in some way, and I turned around and I was just like, don't call me stupid. I'm not stupid. I have straight A's. Because I was a very like intelligent child. I did very well in school. Yeah. No one had ever called me stupid. She'd never called me stupid before. I'd never even associated myself with stupidity. I was just like,
to this day.
to this day. But I said to her, I was just like, don't call me stupid. I'm not stupid. I have straight A's, man. Like get the receipts. And she apologized to me, which is not, I can count maybe on one hand how many times my mother has apologized to me.
Yeah, my mom apologized to me that day too, at 15. Yeah. That might have been her first time apologizing to me.
Yeah, she apologized. Yes. She was like, I'm sorry. She's like, I'm sorry, you're not stupid. You're absolutely, like, she was just like they laughed, like her and her friend, because they was like, who's this little girl, like telling us, like, oh, because I think it was like, I have straight A's. So she was like laughing, and she was just like, you know what, you're right. You are not stupid. Like, I shouldn't call you stupid. And I remember her following up with the conversation, like, I should never call you stupid. You're not stupid. You're a very smart girl. Yeah. She validated my intelligence often.
Yeah, like, instead of locking in, because some parents, they don't like to be challenged in front of people, and they will dig in their heels.
Yeah, like, she didn't do that. I have a few memories of telling her how something made me feel or something bothering me, and her being like, oh wow, no, I didn't, that's not what I meant, or giving me an explanation. I remember being able to ask why, which is again unheard of in
I was not
Jamaican
able
culture.
To ask why.
Yeah, I could ask my mom why all the time. I remember being able to challenge her, maybe a little too much, but I know that gave me a voice. Yeah. I've never really felt voiceless around my mother, where I didn't have an opinion. She was just very okay with who I was. Yeah. I never felt like I had to change or shrink or any of those things. Came more so from observing how she was, not so much about how she told me to be. Because sometimes it's not the things your parents are saying to you or saying how you should be or names they're calling you. Sometimes you're observing their life and you're picking up on their habits and you're picking up on their mentality and you're picking up on things that they do, and you're kind of like harnessing that into your own personality, and you're absorbing that, and then you become that without even realizing that you were just watching. And sometimes there's this saying that like, your children pay way more attention to what you do than what you say.
Exactly.
And I don't really have memories of my mom trying to make me shrink. I ended up shrinking lots and lots in life after. But it had
it wasn't her fault.
And sometimes taking the blame off of them that they don't deserve.
Yeah.
Like I had to learn, I was like, that's not from my mom. My mom never told me to shrink. My mom always told me to stand up for myself. Yeah. I remember, I'm 5'2", y'all. I don't know how big I look at her, but I am a small human. In high school, I was maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, and I remember in elementary school, I was like, I'm a tiny human. Like, I just have always been small. And when I was a child, I was very small. When I was 7, I looked like 4. Like, I'm a tiny person. And I remember one time a girl in like an older grade. I always hung out with like older kids.
Yeah.
And one day this girl like bullied me. And I ran home to my mom, and I was crying. And I was telling her how this girl bullied me and said she's going to beat me up. She was just like, if you let her, she's like, if you get beat up, I'm going to beat you when you get home. And she was just like, don't ever let anybody talk to you like that. Don't ever let anybody threaten you. You stand up for yourself. Say, even if they beat you up, you know that you fought. Like, she was like, you'll never get in trouble. She said that to me. She told me you'll never get in trouble for fighting and standing up for yourself ever in life, you know? And there was some fights in my life, and I never got in trouble with her because she was very adamant on me having a voice. And I don't know, maybe that's getting to know her now. Maybe there were many times in her life she didn't feel like she had a voice.
Yeah.
So she was very, intentional in ways that I didn't recognize as her being intentional, because how else would she have produced that? That's not an accident. You don't produce certain qualities in a human on accident. I think some qualities have to be like, I have to make sure you are like this. And I was really lucky to have a mother that felt like it was important for me not to silence myself and not to shrink and not to become someone else to fit in. Like, my mom was never on that. She let me pick out my own clothes at a really young age. Yeah, it was like, when I think about it, it was like there were so many things that she just gave me a lot of freedom to do. And I remember her saying, I have no sister, so it was just me and her in the house. And my sister, again, is 7 years older than me. And I remember one day I overheard my mom, or I don't remember if she was saying it to me or to someone, but she was just like, even though you're the baby, I would trust you to go across the world by yourself. Right? She's just like you. She always just, I felt like she really liked me as a person. Yeah. And my personality and who I was. So I never felt like I needed to adjust myself or pretend.
That's beautiful. My mother didn't like me as a person. No. She didn't. It's okay. I get it. So here's the thing too. Growing up, how I grew up, one of the things that I actually really, really liked about her is she was not liked by a lot of the members in
Your mom wasn't liked?
My mom was not liked by a lot of the members in our church/cult. So,
slash cult.
I'm just saying. And so, because they didn't like her, a lot of the women would be incredibly cruel to me and to my sister. My brothers, I don't have it from their perspective because boys are always treated differently in really restrictive religions. Yeah. So the experience from a boy's point of view is usually very, very different than that of a girl.
Typically, yeah.
And that's just take it or leave it, like it or love it. It is what it is. The rules are just different for girls. And so like I would have people tell me to my face that, your mother doesn't like you. That's why she doesn't, give you clean clothes, or or that's why you guys smell, or like it was really harmful and damaging to a young person's personality. It's why I had so many self-esteem and self-worth issues because of how they would talk to me about how my mother didn't care about me. And it was a consistent thing. This wasn't just like a one-time thing. Like they could be very, very cruel. If the adults were mad at my mother, they would beat me, like physically beat me.
And she would allow that. She would allow the lack of protection.
Exactly. Okay. And so for her, what made me, I think it's why I don't give a fuck about like, if you don't like me, like, okay, that's fine. You don't like me, and I said, okay, that's fine. I know I'm not coming from most 90% of the time. There's that 10% where Lola be like, man, fuck all this. But 90% of the time, I know I'm not coming from a place of malice. Yeah. And so I don't give a shit if you don't agree with me, if you don't like me. Okay, well, this is just what I have decided works for me. Yeah. And that is my mother through and through. Mm-hmm. She knew people didn't like her, and she just didn't give a fuck. She said, well, this is who I am. She's like, I am Janet, and Janet has decided, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And if you got her on a real off day, she was Elaine. Elaine was her alter ego, she was psychotic. Elaine had some issues. And she was so okay with not being liked by everybody. Yeah. Even though it caused me some beatings in my experience. Yeah. And the adults would be, much more cruel. I called it cruelty with how they were, especially to my sister. There was this one lady who would always ask my sister why was she the ugly one. like, well, how come your sister looks like this and the rest of y'all look like that? And she would say it to my sister's face.
Oh my gosh.
But luckily, because my mother taught me and my sister to love each other, even though we didn't like each other as kids, we still loved each other, and we would go to war for each other.
Yeah.
Like, if one fighting, we both fighting.
Yeah.
Like, it was that type of energy. So luckily, we didn't do that against each other, but there were lots of people who, not lots, like 2 main women who would constantly, like, berate her look, because my sister and I, like, we look polar opposite. She got big titties. Clearly, I'm struggling in that department. You know, she's thicker, she's shorter, she's, you know, much more dark skinned. And so they would, like, highlight that. And my mom would just be on some, I am who I am, and that's just what it is. And that has helped me. Once I came into myself, seeing that and knowing how she was helped me to own that.
I think that's a good segue into things our mothers could have done better.
Baby, because there's a lot.
Because there's things, right? But it's, yes, we're going to talk about things they could have done better. But it's like, even us just reframing those things into lessons that we've learned, as opposed to saying things they did wrong, right? Like, just changing your verbiage. Like, you know, it's not that you necessarily, they were just fucking up all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, what didn't they maybe have? What tools? What understanding? What education did they just lack that they weren't able to make better decisions in those moments that you needed them to? So you brought up like how your mom fostered a great relationship. I think my mom could have done that better between my sister and I, because my sister and I too look very different from each other, right? I'm 5'2", my sister's 5'10". My sister's darker skinned than I am as well. My sister is heavy set. I've always been a very petite child. My sister's always been on the heavier side. So it's just like there have been differences that of course are highlighted by other people, but I do feel like my mom could have done a better job of reinforcing our sisterhood and the importance of our sisterhood and how like none of those things matter. But sometimes I feel like she
maybe egged it on.
Yeah, not on purpose though. I just think
it might have been a personal thing too, to where she felt maybe bad about something. And if your child represents what you feel bad about, like for my mom, I represented, like, my mouth been slick my whole life. My entire life, my mouth has been slick as hell. I was always getting in trouble for it. That's why she hit me in my face that day. I don't remember what I said, but whatever it was,
I definitely got punched in the mouth for saying something slick.
Listen.
But the mouth has been mouthed for a long time.
It's been mouthed for a long time. So if your child represents that for you, like, you will try your hardest to snuff it out. Like, and I tried to do that with my kid too in the beginning. Because I was like, dang, you got a fiery personality. Oh, this is going to cause problems. I tried to snuff it out. And then, I don't know what happened. One day I was just like, you know what? No, I want you to be fierce. I want you to own who you are. I want you to feel like you are entitled to all the things. Because if you don't walk around with entitlement, everybody else is going to. They're going to run all over you.
Oh, yeah. Especially nowadays. I looking back now, and I think I maybe, and if I'm being honest, I used to maybe relish in the preferential treatment. Or
you were a child?
Yeah, I was a child, and I mean, I didn't, because I remember there were times that she was clearly treating us differently, and I would do things to not make it so obvious. Like, there were instances where she would, like, get something and, like, tell me that, like, it's just for me to hide it because she didn't get it from my sister. But they, you know, after talking to her and learning, and as we got older, I realized, like, you know, things were uncovered that they had their own set of issues, like you said. Yeah, they had their own relationship they were dealing with, and I was just really a bystander. But I would feel sometimes that I didn't do enough, or it's my fault that you know, her and my sister had this relationship, and her and I have this relationship. So I had to come to terms with the fact that they have their own journey to be on that really has nothing to do with me. I may represent some things in that journey, but it really isn't me, and I didn't do anything wrong as a child, because I struggled with that for a long time, where it was feeling like it was my fault that their relationship was the way it was, and it's because I was born, it's because, like, these things happen. So I learned that she just didn't necessarily have the tools to feel very differently about her children without making it so obvious. My personality is so different from my sister's, right? Like, I felt like I didn't do enough, and, you know, I just had to realize that they have their own journey, they have their own relationship, it has nothing to do with me. But I definitely would have liked a better sisterhood to be forged between my sister and I in an easier way. we have a decent relationship, and we have over the years. But I do felt like if our experience as children was different, you know, between our mother and us, and if she kind of gave us more nuggets and wisdom on how to deal with the clear differences we have with each other, compared to one another, and people's comments and things like how your mom did with you guys, I think that would have been a game changer.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Like, because the way my mother taught me to protect my sister, it really helped, because no matter what, like how we became even closer, because like I said, we didn't like each other. We loved each other, but we didn't like each other. So when she was graduating college, and even when she went off to college, I think me and my girlfriend took her. Now, I think that is what happened. Me and my girlfriend took her to college. We set her up in her dorm, made sure she had what she needed. My sister was always, I knew I had to protect her because that's my sister.
Yeah, and you guys have such a beautiful relationship. I always am like, this is so how sisters should be. Like, this is the vibe, this is the support, this is the energy. Like, I never feel any, as different as you guys are, I never feel any friction or any kind of like jealousy or anything like that.
No, because she's her own person, and the thing, there's so many amazing things about her that I love, like her heart for people and how she cares and how she loves children so much. And when I couldn't be there emotionally for my child because I was going through my own shit, and I was going through so much shit when Sanaya was brought earthside, my sister literally stepped in. She moved in with me right after college because I told her, you can't go back to mommy's house. Like, sorry, Mom. I was like, that is cruel and unusual punishment. You can't go back there, because that's one of the things that my mother could have done better. She refused to get help for all of her issues. And because she had so many issues, because honestly she had been dealt such a shitty hand in life, that it meant I wasn't able to have a close relationship with my father because she did not allow it. It was not allowed. And I wanted to be a girl's dad, and he wanted, a daddy's girl, sorry. I wanted to be a daddy's girl so much, and he wanted that, but because it was not allowed, he got that feeling and that experience that he wanted badly with his daughters. He got that from another person's child. And it sucked.
It's like you feel like she robbed you of an experience.
She definitely robbed me of that experience. And I love her, and it's not her fault, but it is, she would not allow it. So he got his needs fulfilled elsewhere in the daddy-daughter department. Like, and I so wish that I could have had that, because I think it would have softened me a lot more when it came to relationships.
It helped you like lean into your femininity, because you knew that men were a safe space. And I could see that. That's a big one. I know that something my mom could have done better is be less reactive. My mom was like a ticking time bomb.
She's also stressed out working 2 jobs
with no sleep, which I understand that now, but as an 8-year-old with someone yelling at you because you forgot to take out the chicken, right? Or the dishes are in the sink, or it was just like, there was no, like, she would say, like, if she told you once, she told you too many times. Like, my mom was not going to repeat herself. And the second time was going to be 10 decibels higher than the first time. Like, she just was such a yeller. Like, she hit too, but I don't feel physically abused by my mom. Most of my hits were justified. I was doing some sneaky shit. I was lying about some shit. Like, I'm just not one of those people. I know everyone processes physical, corporal punishment very differently, but I just don't feel like I'm traumatized from that. I do feel more traumatized from the yelling, though. Like, I don't like sudden noises.
Because you are a words of affirmation type human. You need words to feel comfortable. Like, it brings you into your body. It helps you to feel secure.
When you are yelling at me,
it feels like it's kind of louder for you. Like, it may be an 8 for them, like they're yelling at you at 8, but for you it's like a level 15. So it's
too much.
Yeah,
like my body
feels different.
Even now, if someone yells at me, it sends me into like a frozen or a fighting stage, or a flight. Like, I just get into I fight, flight, or fawn. Like, anything can happen when because I just go into survival mode. I hate being yelled at. It's something I don't tolerate in romantic relationships, friendships. Like, you cannot yell at me without me immediately being like, oh my God, don't yell at me. Like, I can't. Like, it's something I'll tell a dude that on the first date.
I've never yelled at you.
I don't think I have. I don't really have friends that yell at. Like, I cannot.
I don't like that.
I make it very clear to everyone in my life that, like, I don't deal with. Like, I don't. Like, don't yell at me. I will tell her to do that on the first date. Like, look, I can't deal with that. Like, once you yell, the name call, like, I can't.
Yeah,
it's just a deal breaker for me. I can't tolerate enough. And I've still ended up in relationships with that. And it just brings out, like, a demon in me.
Yeah, I become a demon.
So if you yell, that is from my mom.
Yeah.
Like, the reactiveness. I feel like anxiety is rooted somewhere in her. I'm still trying to cover where and how. But I know that the constant yelling and just never really knowing, you know, when she was going to be this really nice, wonderful, affectionate mother who was very doting and, like, you know, huggy, huggy, kissy, kissy, or when she was just going to flip the fuck out, right? Because, like, I remember one time, I have this very vivid memory. My dad had bought me a bike. And a piece of the bicycle, like, you know those, like, bikes back in the day, like those mongoose bikes, and they had, like, a little plastic.
Yes, the little plastic on the backside, and they look pink or purple.
Yeah, so mine was like green because I didn't want to be a girly girl, and I didn't want pink. So I made my dad get me green, and that plastic piece had fell off, right? And it was in the living room of the apartment. And then my mom, we used to have to eat with trays if we're going to eat in front of the couch. So one day, my mom tells me I have like some Coca-Cola or some kind of juice or soda. And she was like, no, eat at the counter since you're going to drink that. You're drinking dark colored drink. Like, she's like, eat at the counter. I was like, I'm not going to spill it. I just want to sit and watch TV. And I like insisted on sitting on the floor and watching whatever. And she was like, if you spill that Coca-Cola, like, it's going to be your ass type thing. And I was like, I'm not going to spill it. Like, I was like such a little annoyed. I was like, I'm not going to spill it. It's fine. Like, and lo and behold, I must have been like 8 or 9. I spilled the Coca-Cola all over Miss Foster's gray carpet, child. And she picked up the bike part, the plastic thing that fell off the bike, and she picked it up. But I was fast with it, so I just juked her ass real quick and ran into the bathroom and locked myself in the bathroom until she went to sleep.
Oh, God.
And then I remember my sister knocked on the door. She's like, Danielle, open the door. I'm like, I'm not opening the door. Mommy's going to beat me with the thing. And she's just like, no, she's not. Like, you're fine. Like, come on. And I thought she was tricking me. And I still stayed, girl. I must have been in that bathroom for 5 hours. I ain't finished my dinner. I was like, fuck that. You were not about to beat me with a bicycle park. And I just remember things like that. Like little instances like that where she would just like, I spilled a soda. Like, I get that you told me not to, but it's just like, is that worth the ass whooping? Like, maybe a pop. But she was about to beat me with the piece of a bicycle.
I understand.
Okay, so
it's
I wish she just sometimes reacted, and I understand now that she was tired.
Yeah.
She was overexhausted. She was frustrated. She was unhappy. She was stressed the fuck out.
Yeah.
You know, and not to make it an excuse, but it is a reason.
It is a reason.
And helping myself understand that and learning that, even having conversations with her as an adult.
Yeah.
And even now having my own child, seeing how difficult it is with a wonderful partner, with a wonderful life, with support.
Yeah.
I just, like, I'm surprised I'm alive. Like, thank God I'm alive with how much she had to handle and raise 2 girls by herself. Like, you know, so it's like, I think she could have done a better job of responding in a less reactive way to us, to teach us how to do that, because it takes a lot of control for me to not be reactive.
Listen.
Like that therapy, like 90% of my therapy is how to control my urges to hit people, my urges to yell and cuss people out, my urges to just blow shit up. Like, I want to go, like, my mom will go from 0 to 1,000 in a heartbeat. Like, I just see my mom lose her shit. I just be like, oh my God, she's going to kill me. Today's the day.
Today's the day,
you know? And she would threaten to, so I was like, oh my gosh, one day she's really going to just snap and do it. You know, and I have that in me.
Yeah.
You know,
so do I.
As much as I try not to, like, with my daughter now, like, she's in that toddler phase. And woo, like the level of self-control it takes. And sometimes I'm like, would I have to have this level of effort in controlling myself if I wasn't raised in such an environment that was volatile sometimes, where I didn't know what was going to happen. It's like an eggshell.
Yeah.
Sometimes she wouldn't react that way to something, and sometimes she was too tired and she was going to react, and I didn't know what I was going to get. So it definitely is
uncertainty.
Yeah, it creates anxiety in your body, and it creates like this feeling where you're kind of like, I don't know, and you don't trust your reaction sometimes. Yeah. So I shut down a lot in relationships, especially romantic ones. If I start to feel like I'm being attacked, or I start to feel any kind of anything like that, you know, I shut down to protect myself, because that's what I had to do with my mom. So that's definitely something that I wish I didn't have to work so hard to, and I think I do a fairly decent job, I must say, okay, of not being that way. But there are definitely some times where I've like yelled, because my mom is like the kind of person that yells at the top of her lungs. It's not like she's just raising her voice. It was like she's up here with it, like she's yelling as loud as Soprano. She can, where your body is like I remember doing this as a kid sometimes. Like I would just shake, like. Aww. Yeah, and I would get like, and in my teenage years, I started getting panic attacks.
Oh, goodness. See, so I think for me, they used to call my mother Little Miss Vietnam, because she would fight everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody.
Including you?
Including me. Yeah. She wasn't as violent once I came around, but she still, like, even I was a kid and she got in a fight with this woman in our church cult, and she took a Pyrex pan and she knocked the lady upside the head. Pyrex pots aren't supposed to break. They're literally marketed as though they're unbreakable glass. It broke, and the lady had to get stitches in her head. I was a child, and I wasn't no baby child.
And you saw the...
No, I was in the house, but I was with one of the other kids. And she just, that's been my mom. Like, my mother is a fighter. So much like your mom, my mom can go 0 to 100 real quick. And so that, for the longest time, had been my personality. I would fight. I didn't care if you were man, boy, child, grown person. Yeah. I fought teachers. Like, fighting for me was not a thing. And it has taken so much therapy for me not to immediately resort to, because the first thing I think of, right? Because my mother used to tell us, if you're going to fight, don't stop till you draw blood. Why she would tell children that, I don't know.
She was creating killers. I'm a killer, but don't punch me.
Because she used to tell us, my children are small, so you can't fight fair.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't think that is literally, so for me, I have always had to walk myself out of, hey, don't immediately go to fight, because that is
it's a thing.
I'm trigger happy.
Yeah,
trigger happy fam. I'm you, me.
Yeah, it's a real thing that I have to. And what I always tell therapists that I've had is, for me, it's important not to react to people.
Yes, because I don't know how far I'll go.
It's more important for me not to want to react, and that's where my deeper therapy and healing comes in. Is where I'm not fighting it so much, because I don't like that feeling in my body. Like, it's nice for me not to hit and cuss you out. That's cool, and kudos to me for not doing that. But more importantly, I don't want to have to fight myself.
Yes,
to not fight you. Like,
yes, because then I cry, and I'm not crying because I'm hurt. I'm crying because I literally...
And then my body still has to deal with it.
Yes, it has to process it, because in my mind, I have played out the entire scenario of what I'm going to use to overpower you because I am smaller than you. I already have seen the knife, or I have seen the chair, and I know I'm going to take the leg of the chair
real fast. Yeah.
My mind is not supposed to work like that, but the reason it does is because my mother could have done a better job of showing us how to process our emotions.
Yeah, and to handle conflict in a way that was healthy,
that
and
didn't lead to hitting you, because that is how I get you to
or yelling or being mean or saying hurtful things. Like my mom, oh my God, my mom is like, if she really want to hurt your feelings are going to be hurt.
So my mother didn't know how to use words in that way. She would always use words and that she would speak more so to the queen in me than with her words. She was physically violent.
Yeah, so my mom wasn't really big with words either with me. Like, she wasn't insulting to me. Like, I would watch her do it with other people, though, or I would hear her talk about other people.
Yeah.
Or I would see her do it with my sister, so I knew it was in there. I more so got just the yelling in general of not doing this, or you didn't do that, or you didn't listen to me, or you lied about this, or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like I said, with having my own children and having a daughter that's at an age where she is just really easy to yell at. I just want to yell at her all the time, but I don't. I realized how much of that was still in me, because I'm, if you know me, I don't yell at people. I don't pop off like that. You can ask.
I pop off more than she does.
Yeah, I'm very chill. Like, for the most part, I'm a pretty chill person now. So it's like,
I'm very not.
My child is kind of taking me on a deeper journey to that, to really heal like the other layers of it, because I thought I had fixed that. I was like, oh, I don't yell, I don't scream, I don't want to yell, I don't want to hit, I'm good. This little girl makes me want to do all of the above. And it's so important for me, for her not to be as reactive, and for her to take a calmer approach, as I'm trying to model that with all the tools that I have.
Absolutely. I'm doing that with my daughter too.
Yeah, because
I don't want her. It is. And
Yeah.
but it has to be very, very intentional.
You have to be conscious. Like, I'm very conscious of it. Yeah.
Very, very conscious. For me, I think the biggest thing, which is also what I feel has helped to shape and change and, you know, adjust or shift my perspective, is my mother would many times in our church cult, anytime she would feel ushered by the Spirit, or what she felt was a word or a prophecy, she would up and quit her job. And so it was very jarring to go from a mom who's working 2 and 3 jobs to make sure you guys have the basic necessities, to now not working a job at all and saying God will provide.
Yeah.
And I would ask her all the time, well, is he going to deliver groceries at our front door?
Like, is Jesus going to come with the grapes?
Like,
what's happening?
yeah, like, is he going to turn is he going to turn the water back on? Because we don't have water and lights right now. So can you just let me know, like,
so she took Jesus, paid it all to a very literal level.
The literal level. And for me, that was very, very challenging as a child. It is why I started my first business, because I was like, oh, this bitch is crazy. Like, this whole inconsistent food thing is a problem for me.
I'm gonna need to eat, Mom. What did God say about that?
It's a whole problem. And then it was literally always the same cycle. It would happen like every couple of years, where she would feel the Lord told her that she needed to quit her job and work the ministry. And there was never a, hey, since you're working the ministry, let me give you a little something so you can at least still afford to feed your children.
That wasn't a thing.
That wasn't a thing. And my dad didn't really know how to, well, let me just, pick up all of the rest of the slack and take care of it while you explore this part of yourself. It just wasn't how he was raised. It wasn't who he was.
It's like when she stopped, everything stopped.
Everything stopped.
Yeah.
And so that, for me, having such a dichotomy. So we already I lived a very dichotomous life. And dichotomy, for those who don't know, it just means polar ends of the spectrum, opposite ends of the spectrum. So on the one end, I'm private school educated. On the other end, I live on MLK, and I can thump for the best of them. I fight like, listen. And then I can also speak the King's English. I can go literally in any arena and operate there. But the reason I say that she could have done better is because it made me, I went all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum, where, okay, I never want my daughter to have such highs and lows. And so I would literally break my back and damn near kill myself to make sure this child does not know when I'm having money issues, when I'm having challenging experiences. And shout out to my family and my sister. Love you literally from this lifetime into the next, where they always show up and come through for me, even when I'm going through transition. My child doesn't know it. And that, for me, is, I think if I could go back and change anything, it would have been that, because it caused such dissension in my own body.
And it makes you always in survival mode.
Always. And I'm still training myself how to step out of survival and understand that, hey, money does not have to go like this, like the Dow Jones up and down. You can find flow, and you can tap into ease and abundance. And that's just something that, with the way my mother handled things, and I'm not at all excusing, saying, "Oh, well, what about your dad? You should have." We're not talking about the men right now.
Not
We're
today.
focused
Not
on
today.
the mommies.
Today it's
okay?
about the mommies.
We're talking about the mommies.
One more thing I think my mom could have done better is instill less fear.
Ooh.
I talked about this at the Evolve experience, but I can elaborate a little bit more. My mom is very kind of fear riddled with everything. Like, she sleeps with the TV on. We always had a light on. You know that little light above the oven, above the stove. I was one of those people, because there's like a meme about like the light over the stove. Like, that is not a night light, people. It was a night light in my house. Like I said, sleeps with the TV on. She doesn't ever really sit in silence. Like, she's always on the phone. She's always listening to music. Like, there's just always noise.
Yeah.
I think it's like a safety thing for her.
Yeah.
But back to the fear piece, like, she just made me a very paranoid human being. You know, and my dad is not any better with that either, because he was a police officer in Jamaica. So everything was just like, don't drive with your window down because someone's going to come in and shoot you. My dad would like,
That's not funny.
I know, but that's how my dad thinks. Like, but it's because of things he saw, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if my mom learned the fear from my dad. I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, but there's just a lot of fear, and a fear-based mentality around life. Like, my mom didn't say, look both ways before you cross the street to be safe. It was, look both ways before you cross the street, because if you don't look both ways before you cross the street, a car's going to come and hit you and kill you, you're going to die.
I mean, that's not completely inaccurate.
I know that's true, but the presentation of it now makes me afraid to
kidding.
cross the street. No, I don't want to cross the street. I'm going to stay right here. And I had a lot of moments in my life where I felt frozen by fear, where fear would be so crippling to me and I wouldn't move. Like, I feel like it's the root of a lot of my procrastination. It's the root at a lot of my fear of like jumping and leaping and taking chances, because I wasn't raised with a mother who felt like you should just go for it. You should just take the leap of faith. Like, she was very like, she's typically going to point out why you shouldn't do it and the negative part of it first. Yeah. And that has really stayed with me. It takes a lot of work and a lot of great friendships and relationships and seeing other people do it. And luckily I kind of have a different mindset, just I think naturally. And there were other members in my family that led a very fearless life. So there's these really great parts of me that are super fearless. But I feel like a lot of that deep-rooted fear that comes up sometimes and manifests in different ways for me, and my paranoia around things, and just always kind of coming up with like the worst case scenario. Like, I am very like, I have even been thinking about writing scripts, because I can think of the most fucked up thing to happen.
Oh gosh.
In any situation. Like, I'm like those people, like, you know how there's like, I love memes. There's this other, because it shows us how much we're like, there's this meme where like, does anybody else feel like the serial killer standing outside the shower? Like, that is me. Or like, I used to wash my face, I kind of still do, with like one hat. Like, I cannot wash my face like this. You know how like in the Neutrogena
I be
commercials,
washing my face just like this.
I gotta wash. I need an eye open, child. Like, you are not about to get me. I will, like, my imagination is wild.
So
like,
we need to call Shonda Rhimes for you?
Somebody, because I think I have some stories to tell, because I think of things that are so ridiculous. Because my mom would, first of all, she made us watch way too much Lifetime movies when we were kids. Lifetime movies are not for children. Why would we watch it with her? All they do is make you a paranoid maniac.
Yes.
I just, I wish I didn't have to deal with that so much. I feel like it's held me back in life in really important ways. And it's taken so much effort and energy to push through and to rewire my brain. And sometimes our parents just give us so much work to do. And that one for me, because I know it impacts my life so deeply, I have to do so much work constantly to, like I said, rewire my brain around fear and learning how to lead a life that's not fear driven and live, and not live fearless, because I think fear can be a friend, like we've discussed before, but not letting fear cripple me and stop me from really doing the things I really want to do, because she was very like, oh, but this is going to happen. Oh, that's going to happen. Put this on. Like, you don't want to get struck by lightning. You don't want the man to follow you home. Like, it's always going to be the worst thing, not the worst thing possible that could ever happen to you. Listen. This could be the day. Be really careful. And you're just like, why would you put that in my mind before I leave? Like, wow, yeah, because you know that man, he held that girl down and raped her. You better not go over there. And it's like, what? I wasn't even thinking about that. And I think some of it is Oh my God, obviously from a place of protection, right?
Yes,
and trying to be cautionary and trying to warn your children. And I think that's really great to a point. I think there are better ways to empower and give your children tools to manage the scaries and the monsters in the world.
Because they exist.
Because they exist, right? So it's not about that, but I wish she would have empowered me to deal with the monsters as opposed to feeling like I should always fear the monster and never given me tools to kill the monster.
Ooh, or to overcome or to circumvent. And
I would have liked that. I learned that from other members of my family, of course, but I learned so much of that the hard way.
Yeah, it's the hard way that for me is just quite challenging. And you were talking about tools because y'all know, like, we are not the podcast that you just come, you listen, we shoot the shit, and then you go home. If we're not leaving you with a tool, a gem, something that you can use to change things in your experience, in your situation, then for us, we have not fulfilled our mission. So, the tools. I think for me, one of the best tools that you can use is finding compassion for what they were experiencing as they were raising you, because their lives and all the things that they were experiencing did not stop just because you came about. You were added to the experience, but they were still having a full-on experience, separate and aside and outside, but yet alongside you. And so having compassion for them, like I look at my mom now and it breaks my heart sometimes to see how much of life she has not lived and not experienced. So I do not, because I used to hate her, be clear. I do not have the anger that I once had towards her. And I told her before she first apologized, like, I hated you. Like, I hated you. I felt like you hated me. Not only did you hate me, but you also didn't like me, because I think those are different. To hate something and then to not like something, I think those are different. I was like, and I felt like you both was what you felt for me.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Like, you can really hate them and be like, I don't want nothing to do with you. Like, I really cannot stand you. Like, when they call you cringe, does that happen to y'all? Like, I remember my mom would call me, I would just be instantly irritated. Instantly. Like, she wouldn't even say anything. She'd just be like, hi. I'd be like, yes, what? Bitch, like, why are you calling me? I don't want to talk to you. Like, why are you, like, I remember feeling in my 20s, oh my gosh. I always was just like, I wouldn't answer the phone, or I would answer really aggravated and irritated, and she could just hear it in my voice. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yes, what? Oh yeah, I told you I was not kind for a very long time.
But that's having the compassion piece.
Yeah, I had to learn that too.
Because I couldn't have imagined all the things my mother went through, and then having daughters, plural, and knowing her experience. I have so much compassion for her, and I understand it wasn't just about me.
Yeah.
She was trying to figure herself out with no tools because she refused therapy.
Yeah.
All she was willing to do was, go to church and pray. And unfortunately, the Bible doesn't have pieces and parts in there about what to do if your uncles molest you. In the Bible, you're supposed to marry them. There's...
Right.
It's just...
Different time. It was a different time.
It's a different time. So, having zero tools, having no desire because you think how you are is okay, and dealing with all of the hell that she dealt with, knowing her mother hated her, not thinking, knowing her mother did not like her, being molested by her uncles, plural, over years, years at a time, and then having a daughter who refused to, I just wouldn't act right. I was like, nah, I'm good, I'm gonna do this my way. I have so much compassion for her.
And other things you haven't seen, right? Like that for me too is like realizing, and that's where my healing journey started with my mom in my mid-20s, where I don't remember how I came to it, but I just realized that she was a woman having an experience who happened to have children.
Yes.
And once that hit me, when I just started seeing her as a woman as opposed to a mother, because I then realized that I didn't need her as a mommy. I didn't need a mommy anymore. Like, I've been pretty self-sufficient and independent since I was about 17 years old. And I just thought, like, why am I still looking for my mom? And that's my tool, is like reparenting yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
And actualizing her humanity.
Yeah, like once I was like, oh, you're just like a woman trying to figure shit out. Like, this pedestal of mom and dad, and like this way we look at them, and that they should just be this perfect people, is so unrealistic and also detrimental to your own healing journey. It creates this unrealistic set of expectations that they'll never be able to meet. It's so unfair in so many ways that we just think these people should be flawless human beings who don't do anything wrong, who should always own their shit and take accountability. And it's just unfair if we're being honest.
And unrealistic.
And how we set these expectations on them. So once I realized that, one, I don't need a mommy anymore. I'm grown.
Not in the
mommy. I'm using the word mommy and not mother. Like mommy isn't an 8-year-old girl, right?
Yeah.
I don't need my mom to do things that I now can do for myself. I'm paying my own bills. I more so decided that I would like us to be friends. You've known me for a very long time.
At this point,
you know me real well. You've been there for me through some shit. Like, can we? I wanted to fix our relationship. And once I started seeing her as that woman and I started reparenting myself and just becoming that parent to myself that I wanted, it helped me to just see her as more than just my mother, right? It was just like, no, you're this woman who got with this, you came from like this little country bumpkin place where all you went to was church. You got pregnant, you were a teen mom, you got pregnant at 17. Unfortunately, my dad, there were times in those days where he was abusive to her, very naive and green, like didn't come from a space that was exposing her to anything. Then you're with this man that is cheating on you constantly, right? Emotionally abusing you, physically abusing you. And then you end up having another baby by him and you feel like you want to leave. Then he has a baby on you. It was just like, there was a lot of shit happening in her 20s.
She was going through a lot.
Yeah, and she ran, right? And she escaped that and she moved and was brave to leave and create and forge a whole new life for her so her children could have, for herself, so her children can have a better life. And it's just like, God, that's dope. Like, thanks, Mom. Like, that was cool. Like,
but that clarity frees you up to be able to now identify, hey, these are the good things that I got from you.
Yeah, based on you as a human. And how you navigated those things. Yeah. I don't know if I would have been able to navigate those things with such grace.
Because it's not you as mommy. So the expectations that I have for you as mommy are not the expectations that I have for you as a woman who's trying to figure it out.
And did a damn good job. Like, you did all right, sis. Like, so once I learned to just reparent that and reframe the way I saw her, it's easier to have the compassion, like you said. It's easier to kind of forgive and start to see things for what they really are. And that's, like you said, that clarity gives you the freedom to just look at a clear, you just get a clear picture of, oh, that's why that happened. Yeah. Okay, that didn't really have anything to do with me, because as a child, you think everything is your fault.
Because everything usually is, because you're getting yelled at for all the things.
Yeah, but children internalize everything. Your parents get divorced, it's your fault. Yeah. Your dad loses a job, it's your fault. That's just how their brains work. I don't know if it's because it's not fully developed. I don't know. But children internalize and think everything's their fault. Yep. You have to remove yourself from that space. And if you are going to heal your inner child, it's important to go back to your inner child as your adult self and look at the situation through these new clear glasses that you have. Like, take off the 8-year-old beer goggles. Well, not beer goggles. What's something that gets kids trippy? Not
Rosie.
Beer. I don't know.
Y'all know what I'm trying to say.
Some goggles that blur shit up. Take those off, right? Because you're not a child anymore, and step into your power. Step into your adult self who has more knowledge, who has more tools, who's done more work, who's done more healing. Go back to that 8-year-old. Look at that same situation that you feel like was so traumatic, or that same environment that you feel like was so destructive, and see if you can find ways to reframe and shift your perspective to get more clarity, to not excuse the behavior, especially if it was very abusive, but just to maybe gain just a little bit of understanding so that you can move forward and be the person you want to be, as opposed to the person you feel like you've been damned to be based on your childhood.
Absolutely. And when you go back there, talk to that child.
Oh yeah, write letters.
You can write a letter, or you could, so like what I did, and we are not suggesting anyone, take illegal drugs or anything like that. Your journey is your journey. But there was a healing experience that I had on LSD, and they wanted us to go back to the first time we experienced pain or we locked ourselves away. And so for me, it was when I was 8. My mother, her son died. He was stillborn, and my mother doesn't do well with losing anything because everything was taken from her. So if she loses things, she loses, it takes her to a place. If she loses $1, she's going to look for that dollar for the next year and a half until she finds that dollar. Mm-hmm. It is very serious for her to lose things. And so there was her best friend at the time. Once they found out that, okay, the baby was born, dead. She got me dressed in this little ugly, hideous little dress. I have a picture. It was full of ruffles and all the things. And she said, okay, now you won't be able to cry. She literally told me at 8 years old, she's like, you won't be able to cry. She's like, your mommy and dad lost the baby, but your mommy still had to have the baby. You're the oldest, so you won't be able to cry. You need to be there for your mom and for your dad and for your siblings. So she got me dressed up. She put me on the little dress. We got in the car. We went to the hospital. And I have pictures literally on my phone now of me holding the dead baby. His lips were purple, like dark, deep purple, because my mom had a psychotic break. She called the baby from the morgue every day, multiple times a day for 3 days, the entire time she was in the hospital. She changed his clothes so much, his skin started to tear because they were pulling him out of the morgue. He's frozen. He's dead. She had a psychotic break. And we're in pictures holding the baby, and I remember being overcome with sadness, but also remembering that she said I couldn't cry, so I cannot cry. I stopped playing with dolls when I was 8. I stopped really watching cartoons like that when I was 8 because I needed to be there for my family. My mom, she literally lost it. We'd be in the mall. She was trying to steal white people babies, and I was like, Mommy, they're going to know that's not ours. She's like, but I have a baby. I need to have my baby. That's my baby.
Man, it's heartbreaking.
But when we did the regression type of therapy, like I said, tripping on the LSD, if you try and control it, you'll have a really, really bad trip. So instead of trying to control it, I just allowed myself to flow. And I went back to that 8-year-old and I pretended like I was getting myself dressed and told myself, it's okay for you to cry. This is a really sad experience. This experience is going to be one that will shape you for the rest of your life. It's going to be very, very painful for you and your family. And tears are okay because when sad things happen, you get to cry. Yeah. I boohoo cried on the LSD. And the guy who was doing it, and it wasn't a sexual thing at all, but he literally he held me and just gave me and that little 8-year-old who I was talking to such reassurance to know it's okay.
Yeah, and those things are so powerful. And if you're not willing to open up to using psychedelics, there are other methods too, like hypnosis. I believe EDMR is a way to tap into those traumas. Tapping. I mean, there are a lot of practitioners now that have alternative ways that can help you go back and uncover past traumas that you've hidden away, because a lot of us do that, that are just wreaking havoc in your life and you don't know why. So, seeking out help, finding professional help to deal with your parents, and being okay if you do bring something to your parents, they don't receive it, and they're not as willing to heal or do the work. Creating those boundaries, so you have to decide, hey, with everything that's happened, can I have this person in my space as an adult? Do I like them as an adult human?
Yeah. Can I have them in my intimate space?
Yeah, how do you make me feel, excuse me, when I'm around you? Checking in with your body when you're around them, and not reverting to 8-year-old you, but standing in your power as adult you and checking in with that to see what kind of boundaries you need to have with them. Because not everyone's parenting journey with their parents, healing journey with their parents, results in friendship and results in being able to communicate. If you do have to cut them off, if you have to isolate them for your own sanity, then do that. That is a very real thing, but do it from a place of power, not a place of pain and frustration and bitterness and resentment. It's been such a weight lifted off my shoulder just seeing her. And acknowledging the things that I just like about her as a human and things I dislike about her as a human. Forget being my mom. Yeah. It just changes your expectations of them. It changes the way you view them. And I would say the last thing for me when it comes to the tools that you can use when it comes to dealing with your parents, just realizing that if they were, and there's a term where it's emotionally immature parent, where you want to kind of feel like they're reacting to you as opposed to just figuring out that it's just how they are. Stop trying to make them something they're not. If your mom just isn't that nurturing, just be okay with that.
And find you somebody. My godmother was so loving.
Oh, that's a great piece of advice. Let's not leave that out. finding other parents, right? Like I was really blessed too to have a wonderful aunt, wonderful cousins, a wonderful stepmom. Like I had so many other parents. That's why it is so important to create a village. But even as an adult in your healing journey, if you can't talk to your parents and you feel like you want to go talk to mommy, find another friend, find another family member that can hold space for you.
Who will let you lay up. My godmother, my mother didn't do the touching. She didn't say I love you. That wasn't her thing. And she says it because when she, lost the kid and she had another child, even as a child, because I'm only 10 years older than my baby brother, but me and my siblings, we made sure to hug on him, to love him. So he now, as a grown man, he's very loving and nurturing. Like he want to touch. Sometimes the emotions be a lot. Love you though. But we made sure we did things differently with him. And so now my mother says, I love you. But then she wasn't about that life. So my godmother would allow me to lay in her bed. I wasn't allowed to lay anywhere near my mother. She don't play that. To her, that means you're gonna get molested.
Yeah.
So she didn't do that at all. But my godmother would let me lay up under her and she would touch me and hold me and like those things that you need as a kid, she would give me, because children need to be touched, not in a way,
safe ways,
safe, healthy ways. And sorry, y'all, I grew up around a lot of pedophilia, so my mind always goes there first.
Same.
And so I'm gonna always hey, we talking about in safe ways for those folks who.
That's very real. No, but it's good. I love that advice to leave everyone with is cultivate a community to reparent that hurt inner child. Stop moving and living in that place. Figure out if you're stuck at that age, right? Like there are so many people who are stuck in teenage years or stuck as 12-year-olds or stuck at the age that the trauma happened. So you're constantly living from that space. You're constantly making decisions and reacting from a space that's not even really who you are because you haven't grown up past that stage. Get the help you need, create the community you need to have the conversations. Like, you don't have to be like that. Like,
you can change.
Yeah, don't condemn yourself to a life of misery because of your childhood. Like, yes, acknowledge it happened, but what can you now own and what kind of responsibility and accountability can you take to become the best version of yourself in spite of, not because of, but in spite of the things that may have happened to you? And how can you learn to forgive and have compassion for the people who raised you, especially your mother, so that you can become the better mother or the better parent that you want to be? Like, it has literally made my parenting journey so beautiful because every time I'm in a situation where my mom comes up and I can feel her energy, I can feel her presence, I'm like, damn, I sound like my mama. I think sometimes we're trying so hard not to be like them that we become like them. I learned not to do that because I was doing that at first where I was like, oh my God, I sound just like her. I don't want to be like her. I'm just going to. And then you go to the other extreme of being too gentle and being you don't want to abuse your kids at all. So now you're a fucking fairy with them. Like, that's not going to help. So I learned to just be like, oh, I sound like my mom. What's that about? Yeah. Where's that coming from? Ask yourself questions.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Be curious.
She would have said, why am I wanting to react like that? Do I have a right to react like that?
Yeah.
Like, start to have these conversations with yourself where you're exploring the emotions that come up or you're exploring the negative reactions that come up. Forgive yourself. Be gentle with yourself so that you can move through those behaviors if you are trying to not create that cycle or keep perpetuating a negative cycle of behaviors or habits. It's just is really powerful. So I love that we had this conversation about mothers and what they did great and what they could have done better. And we talk about our moms almost, I think, in every episode because moms are real impactful.
Real impactful.
They make a really big dent in your life. So it's important for us to heal that mother wound.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so here's the thing. This is only episode number 1. So y'all should know this season 7, because it is the finalization, not of Triggered AF podcast, don't you worry, but because it's the finalization of this level that we're on, there are going to be some incredibly powerful conversations. You will want to make sure you stay tuned. If you were not already, make sure you are subscribed to us on Patreon and also Apple. Listen, I promise you, it is so many good things that are going to be happening, and we want to make sure that you come along for it. Stay connected everywhere with Triggered at triggeredafpodcast.com, on all the socials at triggeredafpc. Listen, game-changing content, information, learnings, tools, we make sure we give them all because we are growing together.
You can stay connected with me at the Danny Bordeaux. The and Danny is Dani. Bordeaux is Bourdeau. We really are so excited for the season, for real. I just feel like there's just another level. Like we just like unlocked another level.
Yes.
There have been a lot of changes just behind the scenes with the podcast. So I'm really excited to see what we do next and what we come up with and how we continue to grow and evolve and shift our perspective. Like I feel like that's the arc of our podcast, is shifting your perspective.
Yeah.
Because that is what literally determines how you go about life, is how you look at it. So, again, I just want to thank everyone for all their support, and thank you for taking this journey with me and for being consistent with me and pushing us and making sure all the things happen. Because it's just I think it's such it's so heartwarming to see two Black women working together and doing like real work. And yes, I know it's okay to talk about sex and talk about hoe this and slut that and all our hoe escapades, but it's like, can we as a community have more enriching conversations that move our culture forward for real, right? Yeah. Like not moving our culture forward in like a materialistic way with money and things, but like at the root of like, can we heal from our root? And I think that's what we're a part of. Yes. And I'm just happy to be able to keep doing this.
Absolutely. Stay connected with me all over Beyonce's internet at Alicia Reese, ALECHIA REESE. Until next time.
Bye.